Since its inception for the 2002 model year, the Honda Pilot has been a popular seller within the Honda family. And today I'm at Holmes Honda here in Shreveport, Louisiana to take a look at the latest addition, trim level wise at least, for the Pilot. It's the Honda Pilot TrailSport, and right off the bat you can probably see some of the differences if you're a keen-eyed observer and you are familiar with the Pilots, but I'm going to show you exactly what you can expect to be changed and added on this particular trim level when compared to all others of the Pilot. One big advantage that you're going to find here, if you live in an environment where it snows a lot, that's going to mean snow and ice, this model does not offer front-wheel drive. It comes standard all-wheel drive. Obviously, always a benefit for any environment where you deal with, well, difficult driving conditions such as what you would have with snow and ice. Let's take a look at exactly what's different on this model. Taking a look from the front, I don't know how well you can see it on the screen here, so I parked this Pilot next to another Pilot, and you can definitely tell in those pictures in the comparison that these tires are wider than what you would normally have. The tires on this model are not only wider, they're taller, so it's a 245/60 R18. And if you don't know what that R18 means, that signifies the size of the rim. You're going to notice the differences here too. The 18-inch wheels, and I think that really, in my opinion, I'm always interested to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think about those black wheels? Would you rather see chrome? Personally, I think that black definitely stands out better here. The tires are not only wider, obviously, they're going to be taller as well. So you're going to have a taller sidewall right here, and there is a benefit to that. The taller sidewall will take bumps better because there's more absorption when you're driving down the road compared to a lower profile tire that has little to no absorption when it hits a bump or whatever the case may be, going in and out of a parking lot. That makes a difference. So there's an advantage right there. You also have a standard 1-inch suspension lift that comes with this model. You will also notice the difference here with the fender flares, not only the front but on the rear. Those are definitely larger than you'll see on just about any other Pilot, well, literally any other Pilot. And while I'm here, here's the favorite thing for people to ask about. Does that turn signal indicators built into the side view mirrors? Obviously it does, so that's very important to a lot of people. Let's take a look at something else that is different here. You're going to notice the stitching in the seat right here. That's also a little different. Try and give you a good view of that. Let's see, maybe we can do a little bit better job right here with the stitching. The contrast stitching gives it a very nice look. And back here on the rear, obviously you would likely expect this, but you're going to have the badging that comes along as well, that special TrailSport badge right there. And you probably saw it earlier, but something else obviously that you can't miss that you're going to find here as well, you won't find on other trim levels, right here, the TrailSport logo stitched into the headrest. That really does give this model a really nice look. Now tell me down in the comments, and tell Honda down in the comments. I know there's people from these dealerships and from corporate that are reading this information. You never know what they're going to do with your comments. They may use it in future changes to vehicles. Would you like to see this TrailSport logo in the second and third row seats on those headrests as well? And here under the hood, you're probably wondering, are there any changes there? There's no changes, but you still aren't exactly hurting for power. The 3.5 liter V6, 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and obviously putting power to the ground ultimately through all-wheel drive. What about gas mileage? 19 miles per gallon estimated city, 25 out on the highway, a combined total of 21. And let's talk a little bit about cargo capacity. Obviously there are multiple numbers here. Depending on the configuration, I've lowered the 2 left side seats here in the rear and the middle row seats just to kind of show you what's capable here. Obviously you can lower all 4. Here are your cargo capacity numbers, 16 to 16.5 cubic feet, all the way up to 82.1 and ultimately 83.9 cubic feet. And of course, you're going to have a little more storage space here under the floor. Let's take a quick look at what you have here as far as additional storage space. And because it's a little hard to do this one-handed, I wanted to demonstrate something that will actually help to keep the interior. Got the plastic basically right here scratch free. How do you do that? Well, here's the trick. When you lower these rear seats, this is what you need to do. Reach inside and grab the seat belt right here. Grab the buckle right there, and I'm just going to pull it back like this. And that way, when I lower the rear seat, what I've noticed is that sometimes this seat belt buckle will actually scratch against the plastic right here. Just a little tip to keep your Pilot looking as nice as possible. And when it comes to the interior, obviously not a lot here that I haven't shown in all of my other videos with these Pilots, but just so you see, you do have the shades that can be put in place on both doors. There is a decent amount of leg space back here for the middle row passengers. And if you want to get into the rear seat area, there's a button right down here that you can push to do what I just did. And then that seat moves forward. You just push that forward, and it's pretty easy for probably the kids, better than adults, to jump into the back seat there. But you've got a lot of space back there, at least for the kids. And you know what? If the adults need to sit back there, they can, because these seats in the middle row, let's see if I can do this one-handed. There we go. Can be moved back and forth. So you can increase leg space for those who might say it's really cramped back there. Depending on the situation, there are adjustments possible there. And then of course you're going to see that you have your tri-zone climate control. You can dual in the front, single here in the rear. Obviously everybody has air conditioning vents, even in the back there. And then of course you're going to see that you have some connectivity options right down here as well. And one thing, if there is somebody sitting in the middle seat, here is the advantage for that person. The fact that there is not a tall transmission tunnel to deal with, always an advantage. Just taking a look in through the passenger side door, obviously you're going to have power seats in the front. If you've got a power passenger seat, you know, of course you'll have a power driver's seat. And a lot of nice little storage spaces included with that, of course, being your glove box here, fairly deep. You've got space, really an upper and lower door bin here, decent amount of space there, quite a few cup holders throughout the vehicle. And let's not forget the fact that even though it is a conventional size, not a panoramic, at least not yet, we'll see what comes when there is a redesign in the future with the Pilot, but you do have your conventional size sunroof. And just taking a look around, we already looked at the dashboard. There is the turn signal lever if you don't know how that works, or maybe your vehicle doesn't come with that. For you Louisiana drivers especially, you just push it into the up position. See that arrow right there? That means that on the outside of the vehicle, the blinkers on the right-hand side of the vehicle are flashing, and then if you want to change that to the left, if you're moving to the left and the lane you're in to another lane, or turning to the left, you can do that as well. It's just as easy as just doing this, and I promise you won't need to go to the emergency room. You won't need oxygen or anything like that. It's very easy to use. It won't wear you out. Steering wheel mounted controls, well, can't really say anything sarcastic or funny about that, but hey, if you made it to this point in the video, you might as well laugh. There are the controls for the windshield wipers and all the functionality. Let's get that without a tongue twister there, front and rear. And then you do have shifter paddles here because you have multiple driving modes. You've got the push button shifter right there. Let's take a look. Here are your driving modes. Of course, you're going to have drive and sport. Let's just take a look at what goes on here on the dashboard, get that positioned correctly. So there's drive, there is sport, and then you have other driving modes: normal, snow, mud, and sand, depending on what your situation is and what you want to do. Let's put the Pilot in reverse. And by the way, when you see that blinking on the screen right there, that is not a problem with the vehicle. That is actually based on my camera. This GoPro shutter speed, well, something I can't really do anything about to change that, but there is your backup camera, multiple views. Let's see if I can get that to work. There we go. You can zoom in. You can also take a look right behind you, just right straight down behind the bumper. Make sure you don't hit anything back there. Always an advantage. Like I said, you've got tri-zone climate control. Here's your dual zone in the front. Heated seats. As funny as it sounds, today in mid-December, we don't need that here in Northwest Louisiana. More connectivity right here, the 12-volt power outlet, as well as another USB port. Your wireless charging pad right here. And of course, pretty easy to figure out what this is because I've got the water bottle sitting there in the cup holders. And I always think, I don't know why, I just always think of a garage door when it comes to the lid on this console. Not a knock or anything like that, just something I noticed. And you'll notice more connectivity within a very deep console. There's a lot of space in there for whatever you want to put in there. 12-volt power outlet, another USB port. What about the driving experience with the TrailSport? Let's take it out on the road and see if I can tell a difference. Okay, as we hop out here on the road, a couple of things I didn't mention earlier. Of course, you have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay here within the infotainment system, so you can pair your smartphone. That's always a plus. You also have the conversation mirror right here, if you're not familiar with that. That's something I always think about, where you can look into the back seat if your kids are being bratty or something like that. For you parents out there, you can look into the back seat and show your kids your angry eyes or whatever you want to do just for the fun of it. And you know what? If this Toyota in front of us wasn't so far ahead as it is, or so far back from the vehicle in front of it, the truck in front of it, I could almost go off-roading and see how this Pilot does. But we're not going to do that here on this test drive. That's the one thing I wish I had a better option for, to kind of show you the off-road capabilities of this model. But I will share this. I talked to one of the salesmen when I was picking this model up from Holmes Honda today. About a year ago, last February actually, February of 2021, we had a big snowstorm here in Northwest Louisiana, something we rarely get. The last time I remember something like that was probably in 1988. That was quite a while back. Got to get out of the 2000s. But he took one of these Pilots home, an all-wheel drive model, and said he had absolutely no trouble getting around. We had a good probably 8 to 10 inches of snow that eventually turned into ice, and he had no trouble getting around. So I'd say that bodes well if you live in an environment where that kind of thing happens regularly. Kind of funny to be talking about that on a day like this when the high is going to be in the 80s in December. That's not supposed to happen, but it is what it is. What about ride quality? Well, I really can't tell a difference here. Having those wider tires and that taller tire, sometimes that can make a difference. Here, I don't really notice a difference. The Pilot is not something that is known for having a rough or uncomfortable ride, so there's benefit there. Of course, we didn't talk about it earlier, but even though you have dual zone climate control here, if you want to, you can sync those together. You don't have to, of course, but if you want to, you can push the sync button right there and both will be at the same temperature. Just a really nice vehicle, good comfortable steering wheel. It has a nice turning radius too for an SUV. Honda has always done a great job with these Pilots. Of course, the big thing I'm interested in is seeing what happens in the future when a redesign comes. But one thing I'd like to hear from you about, if you have purchased one of these TrailSport Pilots, tell me down in the comments, and really everybody else who's watching, have you taken it in any off-roading situation? Obviously, I know it's not a Jeep, it's not going to do anything like that, but it's still going to have an above average capability compared to other trim levels of the Pilot that don't have the different size of tires, the 1-inch lift, all that kind of stuff to help when going off-roading. Or maybe you just live in an environment, maybe in Colorado or someplace like that, where you have a real steep grade to get up your driveway. Now, I know people who have that situation and they literally need four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive to do that. That's a big benefit to a vehicle like this at what amounts to, well, not really that bad of a price. Got decent amount of horsepower under the hood. Acceleration is good. I don't want to go too terribly fast here, but just kind of accelerating a little bit there, getting up to speed to the point that I need to touch the brakes a little bit. Overall, a very comfortable vehicle. Handling is good. The ride quality is good. Everything is really good here. So overall, always high marks for the Pilot. Now, I do want your feedback on one more thing. Always trying different things out as far as the camera position goes. Do you like the camera position I'm using today? Just trying something a little bit different. I don't want to make it so difficult that you almost feel like you have to look down to try and see through the windshield. So I don't know that the camera view is as good as it can be where that kind of thing is concerned, but I wanted you to be able to see the dashboard and the infotainment screen and what's going on here a little bit differently. But just tell me what your feedback is.